Hello. Today is actually Halloween. And so I thought it would be appropriate to do a flip through of my Halloween challenge journal hosted by Kia Creates and Inspiring Journals. This was such a fun thing to participate in. All the other artists put just amazing videos. We had a YouTube hop and it was just so much fun. So I just thought it would be fun to do a flip through. The first thing that I love is how chunky this journal got. I can't even close it all the way because of how much goodness is in here. I did do a slight flip through on my YouTube hop day. And I did a few pages, but I'm just going to start from scratch. So bear with me if you already watched the YouTube video. But I was so excited to put this together. I had a lot going on this year with Halloween. I had some stamps that I created with art foamies. So it was just such a fun year full of Halloween everything. And so when I make these journals, it's based on my journal into your art journals. I have so much fun. I always tend to put like a little pocket in the front. So I found some cute vintage images from the Tim Holtz collection and just put them on there. And I had mentioned earlier, there's a Salem Mass sticker in his ideology stuff, and I used to live in Salem, and that's where I fell in love with Halloween as well as an adult. So I had to put that on there. And I just put a little title page, Halloween 2023. I definitely would love to do this again next year, so I hope I can have a whole bunch of these journals filled to the brim. The first spread on day one was title page. So I just kept it really simple and just did a silhouette with some of my branches. I think these are some Dina Wakley stamps. These are some darkroom door stamps. And then this is a little silhouette from my stencils. And then I wanted to have a little spot where I could write down all the prompts. So I did a little tag flip out, and I have all the prompts for the challenge written on here. So that way I could remember what I was working on instead of going back to the sheet that we had. So, and I just had a little fun putting something extra on there. So the second prompt was fall or autumn mood board. And this one was really fun to just take the colors of fall and use imagery that I loved and kind of put it in all together. I made a swan that wasn't white and that was more fall colors. And I put a sticker of one of my favorite paper dolls on here. The next one was, so that was day two. Day three was fortune teller. And I was very excited to do this one, probably more than any other prompt, because I'm just obsessed with like all the kind of themes for fortune telling that go with it, like especially from the vintage time period. It just vintage time period, but you know what I mean. And I had this stamp actually, which reminded me of someone. She kind of looked like a fortune teller. I think she's called Seeker, but I loved her, so I put her in there and just put some cool stuff. This was a cool find from the Tim Holtz like ideology photo booth. This lady had the stars and moon, and that reminded me of fortune telling, so I put that on in there. And then D4 was, I believe, Spooky Cinema. And I didn't know what to do at first, But then I remembered there were these stamps in the Dina Wakley line, and I just made one of them. I added the like celluloid little cutouts on the side. I thought those would be fun. I made a little pocket. This was a leftover from another class that I participated in Fodder School from this year. So I added that. And then I remembered I have this stencil of my daughter called, I think, Generations. And I just thought it was so cool, and it kind of looked like cinematic. So I thought that would be perfect to add. 5 is in the attic, and I didn't know what to do quite for this, but I had the Art Foamy cobwebs and just some stuff that I had lying around. I put it all together and added it. So I have like a Tim Holtz die cut. This is from the holiday pop-up, the Halloween pop-up from Art Foamies. And then this one is Myths, Tales, and Legends, I believe. Myths, Legends, and Tales. And I knew I wanted to do a fairy because I have some fairies in my stencils. And I decided to keep it, again, like Halloween colors. So I gave her orange wings and a skirt. And then I made this big pumpkin. And then that kind of reminded me of Cinderella in the garden in that scene. So I added more pumpkins in a mood, and it just kind of all came together. Lots of the vines, I think, are in that scene. So I thought that was fun. This one was a really fun one to do. This one was Haunted Coffee Shop, which I thought was such a fun theme. I'm like, what am I going to do for a haunted coffee shop? And then I remembered I had these 2 stencils from Lisa Young. And I remember doing a spread like this earlier. Like, I think Lisa showed an example of how to make this little holder. I just thought it was so cute. I'm like, I'm going to do that for this. And I even had like an old darkroom door stamp with that's like a coffee stain. So I put that on there. And I just found little things that kind of fit with the whole theme. And even the eye, I just put it on there to fill up space. But then I remembered, like, you know, like coffee stimulates your energy, gets your eyes open. And I was like, oh, that's kind of perfect. So I loved that. This one is one of my favorite spreads. I think this is Creatures of the Night. And I've been previously just having fun with my paper dolls and adding just like a single eye to things, like to all kinds of objects. So I had these lying around, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do a whole spread with all of those, and just keeping the kind of colors to the same color palette. And I think it turned out really fun. I really like how it turned out. So I should say, I think I talk about this in the other video. When I made this journal, all the pages for the inside, the Tim Holtz background pages were perfectly sized. I just folded them in half, and they were a perfect size for this book. And they were a perfect background for the theme that I was going. So that's what I used for the background pages. They just, they complemented this project so perfectly. You know, as does all the ideology stuff. And of course, like all the ideology photos just worked out great. This one was called Ripped and Torn. So I was sure to just rip everything. I have like the torn piece of fabric. I think this is ideology too. And just like made sure to rip and tear everything on the page. And I really like how it turned out. One of the things that was fun for me is, you know, usually the way I work in certain styles. And this style is more of a junk journal style, which I don't do often, but I really admire and I love. So it really gave me an excuse to kind of play around in that way and just have fun and let go and not have really high expectations. It was a very joyful journal to work in. So how's that for alliteration? This one, I believe, is Haunted Shipwreck, maybe? Shipwrecked, just Shipwrecked. And I found this giant ship sticker in, I think, a John Durain book, or the, like, I have it here, or the Antiquarian sticker book, one of those. So I started using a lot of those in here too, because I kind of wanted to go for a lot of vintage themes anyway. And I put that here, found some stickers, and I loved the way this guy looked. He looked like an old sea captain to me. And this kid, he looked like he could be, you know, like a little helper on the big, I forget what they called. They always had kids back then, like working ships, like a little helper. And then this one, I think, is this haunted Erie Island. So this is a fun idea that I got from a Jenny Doe book called Craft-A-Doodle. And one of the projects in there with one of the artists is to, like, spill something on paper, let it dry up, and then go around it to create a map. I actually have one here. It's such a fun project. So I highly recommend it. I think it's in Craft-A-Doodle. There's two books, Craft-A-Doodle 1 and Craft-A-Doodle 2, but this project's in there, and I just thought it was a fun project to explore on this page for Erie Island, because at first I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I just put one of my silhouettes here. This is a very old Nick Bantock stamp, and his stuff is always so great for travel and mystery, so I added that. This is another favorite page in this journal. This one is Abandoned Cottage. So I have several different, like, cottage and house stencils, so I put that in, but I gave it more of a spooky vibe, and I really just worked a lot with the Stabilo pencil in here. And then I added my heron from my Moonlight Serenade set, and the clouds from that, and just houses and a person, and I was done. I was like, oh, that was easy, but super fun. Like, I love how it looks. And again, those background pages, they all work so well together. I didn't even try to organize them when I put the sample, like the signatures together. They just all work so well together. So I definitely need to order more of those. This is it Poisonous Garden 13, Poison Garden. And these were some fun. I just found these not too long ago, these Tim Holtz pumpkin stamps. So I put those, and they were going to be my toxic plants. This is all like Ideology Halloween stuff. And this is an old, just like a little scribble I did one day from like a watercolor. And I let it dry, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to build on the image with pen. And I turned it into like a little kind of haunted forest, and I didn't know what to do with it. And then having a book like this is great, because I can stick a little scrap in here that I don't know what to do with, put it in the book, and then I've got it in there for posterity, you know, super cool. This one is Vintage Halloween, I believe, which I was very excited to do because I love vintage Halloween. This is what got me into Halloween. I have a whole collection of vintage looking or vintage inspired Halloween decorations that I put out every year, and I started collecting those in Salem because, as you can imagine, Salem has tons of shops to shop in for Halloween. But I didn't have a lot of vintage imagery hanging around, but I made it work. I found stuff between my stickers, and I did some watercolors, and I just made it work, and it came together. So that was fun. 15 is Coven. And I had these paper dolls already. I always show this drawer, but I always have a little drawer full of paper dolls. So I can kind of go through there and usually find something that kind of works in a theme. And so these guys just came together, and I made a little cauldron I just hand cut a cauldron stencil because we were doing so much with the kids at home. So I had this little stencil that I made. So I just put that there. And one of my moon faces, I've been obsessed with moons. As you can see, I'm putting them on everything these days. So anyway, I just had to add those. And the Halloween ideology, like sticker texts, had, you know, it always has such fun stuff to add. So I love how that came out. It kind of reminds me of Macbeth as well. 16, I think, is stained glass. And I remember Dina Wakley has these beautiful, like, stained glass cathedral windows. And one year I did an advent calendar for like 12 days of Christmas, and you could open the windows up. And I was like, oh, I could do that on this page. I'll just put some cool people and ephemera in there. I have some Art Foamy cobwebs, and even Paper Artsy, the Lynn Perella line, she had a stained glass kind of inspired collection, so I added some of those stamps on here too. So super fun. And then this page, Runes and Relics, this was my page. This was the page that I signed up to do a YouTube video of. So if you scroll back in my YouTube feed, you'll see me create this page from scratch. Although I forgot to include relics until like halfway through the video. And runes are just like a really kind of cool writing from way back when, and relics could be anything. So I just kind of add odd imagery here and there. I love these like scrappy bits from Tim Holtz. I love putting them over his paper doll faces. And then this is a really cool Dina Wakley stamp. I can't remember the name of this one, but I think Universe is part of the title. And then I had some scraps from my stencil, like collage paper, so I put that on there. But again, this background paper had these kind of markings on it, and I was like, oh my gosh, it just lined up perfectly. It just happened to be the day of runes, but I just thought it was so fortuitous that this was the paper in the background. I was like, oh, that looks runey as well. This page, I think, is Nightmare or Nightmares, and I genuinely had no idea what to do. I was like, Nightmares? I just couldn't think of anything. So I just put a bunch of random stuff. Sometimes that happens. And I was like, it's done and I can keep going. 19, I think this is Candles and Lanterns. Lanterns and Candles. And I had this, again, just, you know, ready to go in my paper doll drawer. It was a Art Foamy, one of my first Art Foamies that I did, but I loved how she looked. And so I kind of used her as a centerpiece and went with like a moth to the flame kind of theme. So I have these like string lantern stencils. So I added those, and then I made the butterfly stencils in here, and just really had fun doodling. So I kept everything metallic. So it's all like copper and gold. It really came out so pretty. I kind of like this one too. And then this day was Cozy Pumpkins. And I just put lots of pumpkins. I loved also how this one turned out. It kind of reminded me of, like, you know, the vintage going to a farm stand, because she had that hat. I was like, oh, it looks like a little girl at a vintage farm stand getting pumpkins and stuff. So I loved how that turned out. And then I just used my alphabet stencils and did some doodling in there, and that came out really cute too. Creepy Carnival. At first I was like, oh, that's gonna be tough, but then I remembered, and I have it right here. I have these really awesome, Rockport did all these like how to draw books and then adult coloring books. And this one is by Sarah Walsh, who's an incredible illustrator. Like, she works with so many people. She did these coloring books. She did another one called Carnival, which is amazing. And Day of the Dead, I think. I can't remember if she did all of them. She did do the carnival. And she designed stuff for Target, like those cute ornaments at Christmas. A lot of them are designed by her. Anyway, so I remembered this coloring book. I'm like, oh, there's all kinds of fun stuff in here. So I found that image and I cut it out and it fit this theme perfectly. So I put that in there. I added my lantern string light stencils and I was good to go. I had a lot of fun adding that. Although now I look back, I'm like, I should have photocopied it so I could save these, but you know, things can only be so precious. This one was Spellcraft, I believe. And a couple weeks ago, I was in Michael's and they had these great sticker pack things. Like they had a whole bunch. And so I grabbed them because I was still working in the journal. I was like, oh, these will be perfect for the journal. So they're really cute. As I go forward, you'll see more. This was a Paper Artsy Lynn Perella stamp that came out maybe last year or a year ago, which I loved. I thought she was perfect because she had the owl. And I have tons and tons of just stickers that I get, and I never know what to use them for. This book, again, gave me the excuse to start using all my stickers that I collect. So I was very excited about that. So I added those in here too. This one was, is it just Apothecary? Yeah, Apothecary. So I happened to have an Apothecary sticker, which was perfect. Lots of the ideology stuff. But then, again, the stickers that I found from Michael's had all these little apothecary jars. I was like, oh my gosh, I can just make apothecary shelves. And then I got these ones, which are like 3-dimensional jars, like apothecary jars. I thought that was so cool. And I didn't even, maybe I knew I had this one coming up, but I got them anyway, because like, who can resist that as a sticker? I'll never get over stickers, never. And I did do the numbers backwards, but I was like, whatever, just leave it. This one I think was costumes and disguises. So because I'd been working on a lot of Halloween prototypes for my stamps, I had stuff ready to go. I put my little Frida lady in here from my the Frida pop-up earlier in this year, and I just did orange and black. And then I had an excuse to use my prototypes for this launch in here, so I can always have them in a good spot. And I love how she came out. She has a very Harlequin kind of feel. And I just thought that was so cute. So I loved it. And here I was just playing. You know, I didn't number all the pages because I started to think between signatures it might be fun to just have the space not so broken. So I was just playing with some art foamies, another sticker from those great stickers that I found. These are Keisha Divini art foamies. I love her stuff, so I put that in there. And then I just wrote a little entry about our trunk or treat experience this week. Every parent's nightmare, but actually it was really fun. 25 is Spooky, no, Through the Cemetery. And that was easy enough too. I liked how she was in all white. She kind of looked like a ghost. So I had her sitting on a grave. I made some graves, added some, and then I just used, you know, different stencils to create, you know, some trees and a moon. So I think it came out good. Very sparse, this one, but I liked it. I kind of kept it simple. And now I'm like, oh, I should have added some like that black birds flying or something. I can go back in and add to it. This one was ghouls. Let's see. Phantoms and Ghouls. And this one, I just kind of made the shape of something hooded because phantoms and ghouls to me are always hooded. So I made their faces looking in different directions and just glued them on. And then again, just using these great stickers that I found at Michael's, just put those on here. And then this is another art foamy that I just stamped and added in there. This one is Catacombs. And at first I was really unsure. I Googled Catacombs because I do want to visit them one day. And I remembered from the photographs, it's like, oh yeah, they stacked all the skulls and bones. And then I remembered I had the Dylusions skull stencils. And I was like, that kind of looks stacked. So I just put those in there. And then one of the sheets had more skulls from those sticker books. So I stacked them in the purple flowers. I just played off of that and put all the stickers around. It's very coordinated, but I still like how it turned out. I love that the skull has like a gold tooth. It's kind of funny. So he's like the keeper of the catacombs, and he kind of looks French. Like you could go and visit with him and he would take you on a great tour. I loved that. This one was Tricks, and I figured I might as well use these stickers up. So I'm just putting them everywhere by now. I'm just like, I'm going to use these stickers because, you know, I mean, I'll have them for next year, but you don't want them to go to waste. So I just put them in there, but they're so cute. They did such a nice job. I love all the jars. And I think they were really cute. I really like them. So I put those in there, added some of the kids, put a little hat on her, little skull in her hand, and Tricks was done. This one is Treats. Even though there's no words, I just remember Treats. So, and I love this. This is from the Tim Holtz like vintage Halloween people, but this was in there. I was like, oh, that's so cute. So I put it in here. One of the other beautiful art foamies from the Halloween pop-up, I added that from Danita Art, who I love. And just some doodles that kept it simple. Put a watercolor pumpkin in there. But really kind of, again, keeping with either like orange and black, like metallics, and also the, this one is pretty much the most colorful. Or like the blues and grays and that sort of thing. This was Halloween Traditions. This was another one that I just did not know what to do. So I just put all of my latest paper dolls that I've been making or things that I've been stamping and just kept it kind of monochrome. And I loved how this is supposed to be like an oyster. These are these kind of oysters that come with my ocean set, but they're really fun to use in the fall for gourds. Like if you just do them in orange or oranges and greens, they look like gourds. But when I flipped this over, it looked like a vintage cabbie hat to me. So I thought that was cool. So I just put that on her head. And then for today's, I just did pumpkins and Happy Halloween. This is another, this is my art for me. This is Sunny Carvalho. I hope I'm pronouncing her name. She's super cool. Her Halloween art for me. And I just did some haunted cottages and that's it. And I do have some more pages like I can play in here if I want. Although I gotta say this journal is bursting. So I might not be able to do that. I mean, I could, but it's really chunky. But anyway, I just want to do a flip through. It was so fun to participate in this project and challenge. I'm really grateful that Kia asked me, and I definitely would love to do this and play along next year. So anyway, that's my little Halloween project, and I hope you enjoyed this flip through.